A very good morning to you and welcome to the newspaper review reaching you live from our studios at High Impact Television. I am Priye Krumale. We are being joined by Peniela Akintujoye. He's a legal practitioner. He joins us via phone call from Lagos. Good morning, Peniela.
Good morning to you.
It's good to have you this morning on the newspaper review.
Yes, same here for me.
Yes, Barrister Peniela. Now, the National Assembly, including the Red Chamber and the Green Chamber, the Special Ad Hoc Committee, meeting over 68 amendments being sent to the National Assembly for consideration with regards to the 1999, the amendment of the Constitution. But some of the key agitations that took place last year and currently still in the front burner of the polity have been suffering some form of state setback. And two of these issues have to do with state police and resource control. But let's first of all visit the issue of state police with regards to fighting insecurity. State police at the moment, a lot of people say the country is not ripe enough for that. Is that a perspective that you embrace as well?
I do not embrace that perspective. The country is not ripe for state police. For what reason? For what reason? Now let me say that conversely, the country is ripe for state police in the sense from the perspective of need. Let me first of all address the perspective of need. I do admit that some people state that the country is not ripe for state police from the perspective of possible abuse, but I'll come to that. But from the perspective of need, the level of insecurity in our nation, our country needs state police now more than ever before. The reality on ground is that Nigeria is under-policed. We have, from the last statistics, we realized that a single policeman, based on the ratio of the police, the number of policemen we have in Nigeria to the population, a policeman has a duty to protect 2,000 Nigerians.
2,000.
That is the ratio currently. And it is stated that so based on that ratio, how do you expect a single policeman to be able to protect 2,000 people? Apart from the number of policemen that are attached to VIPs, because out of this number are those who are attached to VIPs, who are not even available to protect the public. So you will admit, and even if you don't admit, I'm going to tell you the fact, because this is where I operate. I'm a lawyer, and I know of a fact that the police is understaffed. They are incapable of responding to all the security threats in the country. So on the basis of that, even from the angle of efficiency and effectiveness, there is a need for more hands. So if the federal government alone remains saddled with police, we will continue to have this having. That angle. The second angle is that we have also situated the federal government itself is complicit in some of the criminalities going on. A very good example is the Fulani.
Barrister Peniela.
Yes.
But I think that's a little bit too harsh. I don't think. No. In the sense that you cannot say the federal government have been saddled with the responsibility to fight criminality and to ensure good governance in the land. That is the reason why the Constitution has given the federal government the right to be in charge of not only the police force but including other air force, other armed forces in the country. So the federal government cannot be complicit in that sense.
I will explain what I mean. I will situate it in context. Now, those who are in the federal government, they are flesh and blood. And sometimes they have their own personal political interests. Sometimes they have their own personal sentiments. Sometimes, unfortunately, their ethnic affiliations sometimes cloud their sense of equity. And so I give an example. Look at the carnage that has been going on in a place like Benue State. The criminal branch of the Fulani herdsmen and the indigenous people. Look at the helplessness of the governor of the state, Samuel Otom. Look at how many times he has cried to the federal government to provide security for the people. Look at the lethargy of the federal government regarding the matter. He has gone to visit the president about twice, discussing the urgency of, deploying troops, of rescue of the people. But you could see on one of the occasions, the response of Mr. President was that some Tom should go and tell Benue people to learn to live with their neighbors.
Okay.
Did you see? So we could no.
Barrister Peniela,
this is very important.
I know. Barrister Peniela, let me butt in here.
Important.
Yes, I know. Let me butt in here. Now, why not the Inspector General of Police and his officers that have been saddled with the responsibility to be in the field to carry out resistance attacks on any criminal element or any unscrupulous element who are about committing criminal activities in the country are well on ground in different parts of the country. So if we keep on having that criminality, do you think, would it be the president, would the president be the right authority to approach, or the Inspector General of Police and the Commissioner of Police in these states?
The president appoints the Inspector General of Police. He appoints and controls him. The president appoints the head of all the security chiefs, the head of all the security agencies, and controls them. These agencies always need to, even though not written out, but that is the custom. If the president is not giving a marching order in a particular direction, they have no audacity to do it.
But the Inspector General of Police gives marching orders to that effect.
What I am saying to you is this: someone like a Samuel Otom in Benue State, just an example, just one example out of several. I'd complain. Think about even in Taraba State, Governor Darius Ishaku, because they had some invasions from Cameroon, some sects in Cameroon recently, and he spoke about the number of letters he has written to the president to come and site naval base and around that area that has not been needed. He has written to the president, he has written to the security chiefs, it has not been needed. And as a governor, he feels the pain of his people more. We cannot expect the president to feel the pain of Taraba people or Benue people or just state people, because this happened also with
it will. Okay. Barrister Peniela,
we don't expect the president to feel the pain of the people like the governor that is close to them.
Okay, Barrister Peniela. Barrister Peniela.
It's important that governors should have control over the police. They should have their own police.
Barrister Peniela, let's look at it from you. I'm glad you are a lawyer, and this had to do with issues when it comes to it had to do with issues of law. And in Nigeria, we have 360 members of the House of Representatives representing the federating units, each of the states. Then we have 109 senators from the 36 states as well. If this is a matter of law, that means it falls within the authority of the lawmakers who have the wherewithal to make that law, because when they make law, if the president refuses to assent it, they equally have constitutional powers to veto that to veto the president. But in this case, the lawmakers don't seem to be forthcoming in this issue, and they understood as well the consequence of not having state police at this particular point in time. So don't you think it would be wrong to point an accusing finger at the executive organ of government and not the legislative arm of government? Now,
the executive has its own fair share of the blame. But the National Assembly also has its own fair share of the game. So let me say this. The reason why I will say that, I will speak about the National Assembly, but the reason why I say the executive has its own fair share, you see, the executive arm of government is the most influential of the three, except we are refusing to face reality. And so anytime the executive arm of government discloses its intention in a particular direction, the National Assembly oftentimes is influenced to follow suit. Think about even the issue of the electoral bill. Do you remember? Do you know that the issue of consensus as one of the ways of primaries was not even part of the original draft that was sent to the president, which he refused his assent to. He had an interview with Channels Television and mentioned the issue of consensus, and immediately the National Assembly had to go and include it. That's to tell you the influence of the executive. So if the executive arm of government today says that they want state police to be created, every other person will move into line. Now, the other aspect is this. Most of the time, members of the National Assembly are careful to offend the powers that be in the executive so that they can remain relevant in the political arrangement. And so that is another aspect why sometimes you will see the National Assembly acting in a very despicable way, but in the real sense of it, they are acting out of fear because the executive, the arm of government has a lot of power to emasculate them if they do not fall in line. So that is on the one side. On the second side, I also would like to register my disappointment with my own personal disappointment with the National Assembly for considering, because it's now looking so much as though, the amendments that they give, emotion and devotion to are the ones that have capacity to affect their own political fortunes positively. The ones that affect Nigerians. Look at the extent of insecurity that we have in the land. Look at the killings. Look at the restlessness and the helplessness of governors who are chief security officers just on paper, without any constitutional power for them to protect their own people that they are likely to love more, that they are closer to, that they can better feel their pain compared to the Inspector General of Police who sits down in Abuja. Now, considering the need at this point, I feel extremely disappointed that the National Assembly or some segments of the National Assembly who have the power, the adult committee now, who drop the issue of state police and, of course, restructuring, which maybe we are still going to talk about. It is extremely disappointing. And I think that Nigerians can reverse it. Because you remember that when they dropped the issue of electronic transmission of votes, Nigerians shouted and they were afraid.
All right.
They
now,
went back
Barrister
to
Peniola.
So we have the power.
Yes,
and that is what we are doing now. Part of this program is what we are doing. We reject what the other committees do. We want state police to be included in the amendment. If these people are representing us and not their own personal interests.
All right, Barrister Peniola. Now, let's go to another more critical issue, albeit notwithstanding the fact that we have a little more time. The thing is about resource control and agitation that has been coming mainly from the southern part of the country, or will I say the southern part of the country. Resource control equally suffered another setback with regards to the 68 amendments that was presented. What's your perspective on that?
It's equally very disappointing that we claim we are running a federalism and states have no control over their own resources. And the implication of that is that we have been able to create states that are very lazy, that are unable to think, lethargic, not creative. Because you see, because of the culture of dole-out, everybody runs to Abuja at the end of the month to go and share money. So there is no stimulation. There is no stimulation for each state to be under pressure to go his own way, to think outside the box, to be able to create economic prosperity for its people. And so it's very sad. It's very sad. I've said there are two aspects to the disadvantage of not allowing states to have control over their resources. Number one is that there is inequity and unfairness. What I mean, unfairness.
Inequity.
Because some states are more have the resources. We take the resources on their own land, and some of them even will degrade their land, like the Niger Delta people, and we use that to go and take care of some other people who are practically doing nothing. That's the aspect of injustice. The second thing is that the second disadvantage is that it is not allowing states, those states who are less economically viable, is not allowing them to be under pressure to be creative. And so it is not good for our nation, and I am completely against the development. In short, it's a very sad development. Because we call ourselves a federation. Part of federalism, the concept of federalism is that the federating states ought to be a lot independent. The federating states ought to be stronger, you know, because they are closer to the people and the problems, they are closer to the problems of the people. So why should the federal government control more resources than the states that are closer to the people and have to contend with more problems? How many look at education, health. How many primary school is federal government primary school? How many health center is federal government center? It is the state that takes care of some of these most important problems. So they need more resources. They need the resources more than the federal government.
All right. Lastly, just within the few time that we have, it has been said that one of the disadvantage of resource control is that it's going to impoverish some other states who are less endowed with natural resources, and that since it's a federating unit, the resources in one section or in one part of the country belongs to every other part of the country.
I do not agree with that. There is no state that has no natural resource in this our country. There is no state. There is no state whatsoever. And so the only thing that resource control will do is that it will lead to competition. It will lead to heavy competition, you know, because as you are seeing other states making progress, you will be under pressure as the administrator or governor of your own state to also make progress. So everybody will be forced to think outside the box. Everybody will be forced to look at what do we have? What do we have in our state? What are we endowed with? How can we, you know, bring it out and, you know, process it through the value chain and be able to earn from it? So we will even have a situation whereby at individual state levels, they will have their own international customers that they sell their products to and earn foreign exchange. So if we have this resource control against the argument that some people will be impoverished, let me tell you, sir, the reason why some states are impoverished is because everybody likes easy money. It's always easy to go and collect money at the end of the month in Abuja. If there is no money to be shared again, all of those states that are impoverished, you will be surprised that they will no longer be impoverished. Because when they were hungry for 1 week, you know, it's just like any human being. When you are in the midst of convenience, you sometimes do not stretch yourself. But when you have difficulties, when you know that there is no food, you will think. And you will be able to work hard. You will think outside the box. And when you think outside the box, you will create wealth. So that is the advantage of ensuring that each state has its own control. On the long run, it will lead to economic prosperity for every state. All
right. Barrister Peniela is a legal practitioner. Peniela Akintojoye from Lagos. Many thanks for your time this morning, Barrister Peniela.
I'm speaking from Ibadan, not Lagos.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. Thank you for joining us this morning from Ibadan.
It's a pleasure, sir. It's a pleasure.
And we have to draw the curtain right here on the newspaper review. Many thanks for joining us, and a big thank you to Barrister Peniela Akintojoye for his perspective on the issues making the rounds on the front pages of newspaper this morning. I am Oyin Priye Krumale. You can send eyewitness report to info@highImpactstudios.com and direct messages on all our social media platforms at ImpactTV and ImpactTV UK.